Hello everyone, this is Princess here, and in today's video we are going to talk about the next Divine World of Illusions, which will feature Bahamut. The returning burst character we have is going to be for Yuna, as she is getting level 90 in her Burst Plus, and our new LD and Burst Plus character is going to be Prishe. So we're going to talk also about Prishe and Yuna's LD and Burst, or about Prishe's LD and Burst and then Yuna's Burst Plus, and a little bit about the Lufenia Plus. So I will be right back. Alright, so Prishe's LD is called the God Hands, and this will grant her the skill Auroral Uppercut. It is a one-hit Brave HP attack that is dealt 8 times, has an 80% Brave potency, and a 150% Stolen Brave overflow. It also raises Brave based on HP damage dealt after each attack except for the last, and it grants Prishe the 100 Fist buff for 3 turns. Now, at 2 out of 3, this buff can be extended to 6 turns, so she has it for 9 total, and it can be extended thanks to her EX, and each time you limit break this, it will raise Prishe's attack. As for the 100 Fist buff itself, so this raises Prishe's Stolen Brave overflow, her Brave and her HP damage, and this will also add an additional Brave hit based on the Brave damage dealt. So think of it like Leo's LD, but except instead of the additional HP attack, it's an additional Brave attack instead. And with the character boards, this will add a Brave and HP damage up, as well as attack up. And then looking at the call, so when you call Prishe to use her LD, the caller will have a Stolen Brave overflow up, Brave and HP damage up, and they will also have the additional Brave hit. Alright, so now we have the burst weapon. This is the Magicite Blade, which will grant the finishing burst Dawn. And visual-wise, this is probably my favorite burst weapon just for how cool it looks. So for Dawn, it is a 10-hit Brave HP attack dealt twice. It has a 100% Brave potency for the first 10 hits, and then a 120% Brave potency for the last 10 hits. As for the burst effect itself, it is 10 turns and is party-wide. The party can deal an additional Brave hit, so think of Prishe's LD effect, the additional Brave hit for the whole party, and it also raises the party's Brave damage and their max Brave cap. So then for the Burst Plus, Dawn will now deal 12 Brave hits, and it has a 250% Brave potency. And then at 2 out of 3, the burst effect is improved, so it now raises the party's Brave damage and their Brave damage cap by 30 and 50%. Alright, so for Yuna, for her Burst Plus, when you use the Sending, it now raises the Brave gain by 999% of her initial Brave, and she will deal an 8-hit AoE Brave HP attack dealt twice, and has a 180% Brave potency per hit. At 2 out of 3, the burst effect is improved by adding a party HP damage up by 10%, and then it also raises Brave based on HP damage dealt after a party HP attack, which is only once per turn. Alright, so now for the Lufenia Plus, because this is a Divine World of Illusions, you will be fighting the Summon, which is going to be Bahamut. So the first thing to keep in mind is that he is immune to freeze and debuffs that prevent turns, aka paralysis. So if you're going to use someone like Cloud, and his Cross/Slash Plus will not paralyze him, or the freeze from Setzer and Cater. I almost fused their names together. So for the orb itself, so the orb will go up. Well, it doesn't really go up. The way how this works is the orb just pauses if you meet the requirement. So if you refer back to Kurasame's initial event or Jack's Lost Chapter Lufenia, you may remember that the orb just paused. It didn't go up or just went away. It would just pause. So the orb appears below 90, 60, and 30%, and as I stated, it doesn't disappear, it just pauses. And to pause the orb, you need to have a character take 2 consecutive turns. So this is going to be centered around Prishe. But other characters you can use for this, I've heard that Quistis was a good choice. You can use Tifa's her skill 2, her battle cry, something like Yisha's LD. Terra, I believe, works for this too. I did use her for this, but I did also run Quistis. So Noct could also work for this too. Like if you were to time his turn warping to your advantage, then yes, that could work. And then Alice can also work for this too. So a bit about the orb. So when it first appears below 90, it's going to be at 3, and then it disappears, and then below 60 it comes back, but it's going to be at 2. It disappears again, and then when it reappears below 30%, it's going to be at 1. So it's very to me it was very anxiety inducing because I wanted to make sure that the orb did not go off, or I would have to start the whole fight over again. Just seeing the orb at 1 was what scared me the most. I'm sure that's not going to be the same for everyone, but yeah, just don't worry about it. If you meet the requirement, you're going to be just fine. As for the attacks itself, so Bahamut pretty much has the same attacks as he did when you fought him in the World of Illusions Ultimate. He's got Mega Flare, Homing Ray. He can summon the little crystals, so the crystal on the left of the battlefield is just going to Brave Battery Bahamut. The crystal on the right is going to do HP attacks the whole time. And at certain points, he is going to have an aura that prevents any sort of breaks, so it's kind of like Divine Leviathan. And Bahamut will also lock his turn, so you can't really delete him. If you're bringing Quistis, you can still delay him, but for any other delayer, it's not going to work. So with that being said, that pretty much describes everything for this fight. So now I'm going to head over to JP and I'm going to showcase Prishe's LD and burst. So I will be right back. Alright, so here's Bahamut material. As soon as the fight starts, he's going to summon the crystals. And you see this attack that he's going to do here? That is going to be Mega Flare. So if you're going to do this Lufenia Plus, make sure you have some sort of tank with you or some sort of damage mitigation, because that's really going to hurt. Alright, so let's do this. And as for the crystals themselves, they will constantly, the crystal over here is going to battery either Bahamut or the other crystal or itself. And this crystal over here will use a lot of HP damage or HP attacks, which can get annoying. So again, make sure to have damage mitigation for this. Who do I want to hit for this? You know what, let me do this. Just so they can focus on Celeste. Okay, and then, you know what, let's inflict the debuff while we're at it. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now we're going to go straight in with Prishe's burst. So we're going to do this. Alright, so here's Auroral Uppercut. Does a lot of hits, so if this was something that you wanted to use for big damage in like a summon phase or a burst phase, then that can really come in handy. Personally, I don't find myself using the LD a lot unless I'm in summon or burst phase, because, well, most of the time whenever I'm using an LD, it's like to refresh the buff from it. But because Prishe can extend her buffs, I feel like I don't really need to use it that much. Alright, so now we're going to use the EX. Keep in mind, the buff extension is from Prishe's EX. Alright, and we're almost done here. Alright, there's the orb. And that was the Dragon King's aura, I believe it was called. So here's Dawn. She throws this crystal and then it just stabs the enemy, I guess. And if you saw right there, Bahamut's Brave did not go down, so because of the aura. Alright, and that pretty much is going to be it for this fight, so, or for Prishe and for Yuna's burst and LD showcase. So with that being said, thank you guys very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know if you will be pulling for Prishe or for Yuna, and I will see you all next time.